get started. Wow, a whole 12 FPS. We got gorgeous George standards of video production here. Alright, so I'm gonna wait for the video feed to kick in before I start reading the transcript. Hope you guys are doing okay tonight. So yeah, I have no chat right now because I'm on piss poor technology, so if you guys want to spam it with whatever you want, go right ahead. Be sure to talk about your favorite feminine hygiene products, whatever you guys want. Anyway, so I have in front of me the court document. Yeah, I'm really hoping you guys can hear me okay. I'm sure you guys probably do. Alright, getting my vitamin C in there. And crap up. Just checking to see that there isn't anything wet under there. And it'd be helpful if I got my spectacles on. It's my first time seeing myself with glasses on camera. I feel like I'm 90 years old. Alright, so let's get into it, shall we? Alright. Let's see, the clerk, case number, blah, blah, blah. George Yared versus Sean Brennan. The plaintiff is pro se, Mr. Brennan is a non-appearance. Mr. Yared, good morning. The court, I can't hear you until you stand up. It's like I've never been in court in my entire life, and I know when you speak to Your Honor, you have to stand up. You have to stand up when you talk to the court. That is the way it works. Mr. Yared, good morning. I have been working all night. Great excuse to give the court. I mean, this is something you've been prepping for more than, what is it? Technically 3 years at that point. Well, 2.5, but still. Where am I? I'm still getting over every time I read the fact that he keeps saying I've been up all it makes me bust up laughing. I've been working all night, so I'm a little bit bushed. But I'll try to get most everything that I have for you. The court. Alright, well, okay, you may sit down, and I will tell you when it is your when it is your turn to talk, excuse me. Mr. Yared, okay. The court. Alright, so we have today for the trial of this case of Mr. Yared. Is it Yared or Yared? George Yared. I could imagine George getting a little bit irritated there. The court of Yared versus Brennan. Mr. Brennan is not here because he is hospitalized. I want to, since we have a pro se, this is not to insult you, and a happy new year, by the way. I really wonder if the court saw the Gorgeous George website and how it was still 2009. That's almost the context the court was giving to me. Of course, he says Happy New Year back. The court. Mr. Yared, let me go over a couple procedure things since you are probably not used to being in court too much. Do you have witnesses today other than yourself? You have to stand up when you talk to me. That is one of our rules. I did subpoena, and when I had a subpoena, I didn't do something... Well, this is George talking, by the way. Let me redo that. I did subpoena when I had a subpoena. I didn't do something correctly with that subpoena, but my understanding was that today was more or less showing you the evidence. The court. This is your... Well, the evidence includes your witnesses. Do you have any witnesses? I don't have witnesses today. The court. Okay. Mr. Yared, my understanding... What I thought... My... The court. Let's go over something else. When I talk, you listen. And when you talk, I listen. So right now, I'm going to talk for a minute. Mr. Yared, go ahead. Who says... Anyway, the court. Today is your day to put your evidence like Mr. Brennan, like it is a trial. Well, of course it is a trial. So can you tell me We will talk about your witnesses in a minute, Mr. Yared. Okay. The court. Let me go through some of the preliminary... Oh, sorry. Things in the case, Mr. Yared. Yes. The court. You can sit down and listen to this, okay? Mr. Yared, tell me when to stand. He still hasn't gotten it. And it's so simple. You stand when you talk, and you sit down to listen. You can't understand that simple concept. Alright. First of all, I want to go through some orders that I entered in this case that were designed to help us get ready for the trial. First, there are a number of orders, but I think the relevant ones for today start with an order that I entered on July 13th, 2018, which denied a number of motions by the defendants in this case, which at that stage included Mr. Markland, who was trying to get the case dismissed in one way or the other. Then on July 31st, I entered what is called an initial pre-trial order, which sort of tells the parties what they are supposed to do in terms of having exhibits ready. And when the trial is easy for me to say, in terms of having exhibits ready and when the trial is, and so forth. Relevant to that, each side was supposed to file a list of witnesses they were going to call, and the list of the exhibits they were going to introduce. Then on December 3rd, I entered an order that denied various motions by preliminary by the defendants, and also denied Mr. Yared's motion for default judgment against Sean Brennan. By that point, I found out that Mr. Brennan was hospitalized and is going to be unable to travel for various reasons related to his hospitalization. So I denied Mr. Yared's motion for default judgment and let Mr. Brennan out of default. He eventually filed an answer. Yeah, which I did, and that was forever. Once again, thanks to Michael Sanders, who did a great job at the response for me. I still really appreciate that. Then on December 18th, I entered another order that has relevance to today. Required Mr. Yared to file a digital copy of all the video programs that he intended to enter into evidence at trial. And Mr. Yared did that. He gave us a disc that contained 11 separate YouTube programs. It must have literally been every video that I did at George. 11! That is amazing. You would think that he would have just gone out and bought a flash drive or something. What am I talking about? This is George we're talking about here. And Mr. Yared, he did that. He gave us a disc that contained 11 separate... Oh, a disc. Okay, I misread that. Contained 11 separate YouTube programs. I will go through those in a minute, so we have that. We have it here today in a format that can be displayed. Now, let me just tell Mr. Yared that I have looked at those, so I've seen the programs, and I can't say that I've looked at every second of them, but I've looked at a great deal of the evidence that you intend to introduce and have plenty good sense of what is involved in it. You know the judge laughed at this stuff. He had to. I mean, he sort of... basically... I mean... because he talks about something else, which I'll reference later, but I got the idea that he did laugh at some of this. Now, Mr. Yared did not file an exhibit list. Ordinarily, that would mean that he could not introduce any exhibits into trial, once again, George not knowing what he's doing, but he did give us all the video exhibits that he intended to introduce, and I have prepared a list of those programs with HTTPS addresses on them. YouTube for them, and the specific, I guess, letters that designate the program. I'm going to refer to those by the letters and numbers that are on this document for each of these programs. We will treat this as Mr. Yared's exhibit list. So ordinarily you wouldn't get to put in any evidence but today or any exhibits, but because you are pro se, I'm going to treat this as plaintiff's exhibit. Do you have a sticker? I'll just write plaintiff's exhibit on it. The clerk, I have it. The court, do you have something? Let me have that. Thank you. I'm going to mark this as plaintiff's exhibit 1. Once again, the court is doing all of this for all of it. I mean, they are leaning backwards for George, and I think that's because the court already had a decision and were just being nice to him out of pity. And I'm going to initial it at the bottom. And this will become part of the record in the case. I have a copy of this for Mr. Yared. Can you please give him a copy? Now, Mr. Yared also did not submit a witness list. But he did give us a list of people that he wanted us to subpoena. And we are going to treat this as Mr. Yared, as his, Mr. Yared was supposed to have filed an exhibit list, but I understand he is pro se guy. And some of the niceties may be lost. Of course it was. George, once again, he thinks he's... I'm trying not to burst out laughing right now, because this is... He's such an idiot. He really is judge, jury, and executioner. That's plain and simple. Where am I? Some of the niceties may be lost on him. We are going to omit this. Notice of witnesses that need to be subpoenaed as Plaintiff's Exhibit 2. And this will be your witness list. The people you can call. Mr. Yared, Your Honor, there is one. You'll see why I'm laughing in a second. The court, hold on, I can't hear you. Once again, he's not standing. Then he stands. There's one gentleman that is here that ironically I didn't expect him to be here. Who is that? Michael Saunders. Michael Saunders, he is one of the people on your list. He is one of the people that, he is in the courtroom right now. Which of these people is Michael Saunders? The guy in the suit there. Yes. Okay. Well, Mr. Saunders, welcome to the court. Mr. Saunders, thank you, Judge. The court, we will call this Plaintiff's Exhibit 2. All right? Mr. Yared, Your Honor. The court, yes. Mr. Yared, so... The court, I am not quite done with my introductory comments yet. You couldn't write this stuff. Literally. Like, if you asked... I'm trying to think of what the best writer in Hollywood is right now, and they wouldn't be able to come up with this. Truth is really stranger than fiction. Mr. Yared, sorry. The court, do you have another copy of that? The clerk, yes. Alright. Now, Mr. Yared, do you happen to have your copyright registration list with you? Mr. Yared, of course, I do not have that with me. Keep in mind, folks, 2.5 years he had to prep for this trial. 2.5 years. And wasn't prepared the day it happened. Alright, I have printed off a copy from the United States Copyright Office of what I take to be your registration. Would you show this to Mr. Yared, and will you please confirm to me that this is, in fact, your registration? Mr. Yared, yes. The court, that is a pretty important piece of evidence in this case. Mr. Yared, yes. The court, all right. You know you have got to stand. Mr. Yared, okay, yes. The court, all right, thank you. Oh, and Mr. Yared, okay. The court, all right. This will be Plaintiff's Exhibit 3. All right. Now, I will probably have some questions for you about this. Are you going to testify today? Mr. Yared, yes, I will testify today. The court, okay. Mr. Yared, if I can say, the court, go ahead. Mr. Yared, excuse me. Okay, maybe, alright, maybe I'm not sorry about that. I am a classy guy after all. See, this is why you should go out with me. Totally not egotistical what I just said. Not at all. So again, I did not, because from what I had thought, if I could say from what I had thought, that's only 3 times he said that, folks. I had thought this, I'll make that 4. Today was more or less presenting the evidence and then setting up. The court. Evidence is witnesses and exhibits and stuff like that. Mr. Yared. Okay. The court. You are at a disadvantage because you are not a lawyer. Mr. Yared. I know. The court. But, one of the problems, people go to law school for a long time to try cases. And there are a lot of lawsuits in the country. But they mostly are brought by lawyers. A lot of people that file a lot of lawsuits, most people who file lawsuits that aren't lawyers don't do too well. As that old expression goes, it's something like if you represent, what is it? Of course, somebody's going to put it in chat. I'm not going to be able to see because I'm such an idiot. Those who represent themselves in court, identified. By the way, are all you guys in the alley giving each other high fives? But wait a minute, where am I? Oh yeah, a lot of people that file a lot of lawsuits. Most people who file lawsuits that aren't lawyers don't do too well. That may happen to you, I don't know. Once again, the court already knows. There are a lot of people that fly airplanes, but that doesn't mean you can fly an airplane, or I can fly an airplane. I can try cases because I went to law school and I did it for 40 years. So you, unfortunately, the fact that you don't understand everything isn't going to be an excuse today. Mr. Yared, I understand that. The court, okay. Now, alright, what else do you have to say? You don't have your witnesses here other than Mr. Saunders. Mr. Yared, what I do want to say, though, when the trial gets set for Mr. Brennan to be either the court, you can come back and bring your witness then if we get that far, okay? Mr. Yared, okay. The court, alright, you may sit down. Thank you. Now, eventually, after those orders were entered, Mr. Yared voluntarily dismissed Mr. Markland. Dismissed Mr. Markland. And I really wished he would have stayed in the case because I know he would have won too. That is a dismissal without prejudice. What that means is Mr. Markland is not a defendant today, but that Mr. Yared can sue him later on if he wishes to. Even if he does, he's going to lose anyway. George... Once again, this is proof, concrete proof that George will never be able to handle a case correctly. Does Mr. Markland live in California? Yes, sir. The court, okay. Mr. Yared, yes, sir. The court, all right, I got it. Mr. Yared, okay. Now, so here's what will happen today. Mr. Yared, you will have an opportunity to stand up and make a brief opening statement. An opening statement is an outline of what you think the evidence will be in the case. What you want me to pay attention to, it is not a chance to argue your case. Pay attention to that. That comes later. You will say, I have exhibits for my television programs, and then I will have exhibits of some of the programs that Mr. Brennan made that I contend are copyright violations. And I have the copyright registration. And the registration covers some of the programs. Whatever programs it covers, and then you will have an opportunity after that is done to get up to the witness stand. Sorry, I'm trying not to laugh at the stuff that's going to come ahead because it's really funny. To get up on the witness stand where I may let you testify from where you are now because a lot of this will rely on your television programs. Hint, hint. But you will have to testify under oath and tell us what you know about them. And your witnesses will have to testify. You only have one here, so you can call Mr. Saunders first. And yourself second. Or yourself first and Mr. Saunders second. But you only get one chance to testify. Okay? So just as I don't know what you expect Mr. Saunders to say, and maybe you will tell me that in your opening, but you might want to call him first so that If he says something that is negative towards you, or you are not anticipating, you can then testify yourself and correct that, okay? All right? Mr. Urett, yes. Now, do you have any questions now? Yes. Stand up. Page 13, which means this has been going on for about 12 minutes, and he still doesn't get the fact that you stand up to talk and you sit down to listen. Simplest little concept that he can't comprehend. What I would like to do, this is George talking, Your Honor, is to start off with evidence from Mr. Brennan, evidence of him admitting of taking my work, the court. What evidence do you have him admitting that? What evidence do you have? I have a video that he admitted to taking my work. Is that one of the videos you have submitted to us earlier? I've been scrambling. It is one of the Mr. Urett, Mr. Urett, I've been scrabbling the court. Is it one of the Mr. Urett? No, sir. The court. Then you can use that, okay? Mr. Urett, okay, but it is okay. Is there a way that I don't? Is there a way that I can get you to look at it? The court. No, I asked you to submit your videos to me earlier. You sent them to me, and I appreciate that. Mr. Urett, I sent a majority of them, but this is one I could not get until the very end. Why does that not surprise me? George leaves stuff until the last second. The court, you can testify that you heard Mr. Brennan say something because he is the defendant. Mr. Urett, it's crucial, yes. I could just imagine George just begging and pleading to. I don't even know what video that was where I admitted. I don't even remember, actually. It's been so long ago. I'm sure I probably have. I just said it's his work and I was using it. I didn't steal it. Steal it implies that I literally uploaded a video that was not modified and uploaded it as my own. That is copyright violation, essentially. Let's see, the court. If you heard him say something, whether it's by telephone or television or whatever, you can testify to that in circumstances, and we will deal with that when we get to it. Mr. Urett, can I submit this to you? The court. No, we have already gotten all of your evidence, okay? I am sorry. This is what we had. Excuse me. Sorry, I don't mean to be laughing so much. This is why we had that order, so that we could do this in an orderly way. Now, I have someone here from our IT office here at the court who can help you show videos that are on that list, that are on a disk. Is that disk in the computer out there? All right. The disk is next to the computer. That is a disk you gave us with your evidence on it. So, all right. So let's start off then. Are you ready to go? Mr. Urett, I have to pop out the disk and then put... Does that even need to be said? I have to pop the disk out and put that... It's always so underprepared. The court, you have to do what? I'm going to put the disk that was brought from... I'm going to take the disk I have that is not going to be used. Once again. Did he prepare for anything? Alright. Court, good. That is a good idea. I will do that right now. But still, he should have had all this stuff prepared. The court, all right. Mr. Urett, I don't want to come up unorganized. Has anybody seen his house? You know how unorganized that man is? Could you imagine what the inside of his van looks like right now next to the river? Like I said, I have certainly no sleep, so excuse me. The court. Okay, what is on my screen? That is what I'm taking out. The court, take it out. Let me just ask you a question a while before we get into your opening statement. My question is Mr. I have been living with this case for a while, and I sort of understand that that you have sort of a number of people that would seem to be picking on you on the internet, and you have bad things about them, or say bad things about them, and they say bad things about you. Is Mr. Sanders involved in that sort of, excuse me, I think it's disputation, which I've never heard of before. Unless it's a typo. Mr. Yared, Mr. Sanders was, once again, not anticipating that he was going to be there. The court, I can't hear you. Mr. Sanders was someone that a previous girlfriend found for me on Craigslist. The court, okay, my question is, Mr. Sanders, somebody that is involved in this video feud that you have, Mr. Yared, indirectly, but more or less not directly. The court, not one of the people that posted things saying that you are gay or whatever. The thing the judge says sometimes, it really does make me just laugh so hard. Mr. Yared, he will do it in a joking way, but no, not directly. Not something other than that, per se, done himself. But he was introduced to, he is on the other side of he's more linked with Mr. Brennan and Mr. Markland. Mr. Yared. He is more of the middle of the fence, the court, all right. So he's just a neutral observer. Mr. Yared, kind of like a double agent, but both sides. The court, all right. Now then, in order to make things easier for Mr. Yared, Exhibit 4 will be the disc you provided to us with your television programs on it. All right? So that is Plaintiff's 4 that is admitted. Once again, not marking his evidence, but that means you have to leave it here when you go. Now, that is your exhibit, Mr. Yared. Okay. Court, all right. Now, do you have an opening statement you want to make? Mr. Yared, I do. The court, all right. Come up to the podium and make your opening statement. Approach the podium. Mr. Yared, okay, all right. But before that, I have a loud voice, okay? No shit. Whoops. Checking to see what time it was and accidentally clicked something else. Okay. So, alright. Court, that is okay. Mr. Yared, before I do that, the main disc, 1 and 2 that you got, the court, I have 2. Well, the court, hold on one second, just answer a question. Just answer out loud so he can hear. The clerk. Mr. Yared submitted 2 discs that we talked about, and then he submitted the YouTube videos. And the YouTube videos is that what IT burned on that disc that is in evidence. The court, what is on the other disc? The clerk, his original work. The court, okay. So what we are concerned about is the YouTube copy of your program, is that right? Mr. Yared, right. I just wanted to, when I present it, it should present both. The court. Mr. Yared, things would go more smoothly if you just answer my questions. What we are concerned about today is the YouTube copies of your program. Those are your copyright infringement. Mr. Yared, yes, we are concerned about today. Mr. Yared, some are the actual disc. What is the actual? The Law Library of Congress registration on the disc and the body of the work. So there are a few that are already the ones that are on there, and the ones that are of my work, and the ones that they have taken from. Have you tried to copyright Mr. Brennan's work? Oh my god, I wish he did. No, I have not copyrighted Mr. Brennan. The court, Mr. Brennan, so what, okay? What I'm trying to say is he has taken my work. The court, your copyrighted work. Mr. Yared, yes. The court, do you submit a disc to the Copyright Office? Mr. Yared, yes, I did. Go ahead with your opening statement. which is, again, just an outline of what you intend to prove to me today. Mr. Yared, what we are basing upon is copyright infringement, stolen works of my intellectual property that I've been doing since 1994. There are channels of my work that are on YouTube that I have. It is like an adult entertainment, kind of. My concern is I don't want to offend anybody with, with the materials. Talks about poop all the time. Does all this controversial stuff and doesn't want to offend people. Yeah, something doesn't compute. Let's see. And I don't want to offend anybody with it, with the materials. That is one concern that I do have. The court, Mr. Yared, let me assure you, I went to high school. Mr. Yared, okay? I went to college. I lived in a men's dormitory in college. I played team sports throughout my life. If there is any variant of four-letter words that I haven't heard, it would be a new out of respect to you. I understand, okay? Every kind of allusion that can be made to people's sexuality, I have heard it all. I hear it in court all the time. So please don't be concerned that I'm going to be offended by what is on your disc. Mr. Yared, okay, it is not Masterpiece Theater. Obviously. The court, it is not. Mr. Yared, that is cool. Who says cool to a judge? That is cool, okay? But so, anyway, what I have, the court, is another person's, yes. What I have is another body of work that I've been doing since 1994. In 2002, now, I have had people take the work that I do, steal it, put it on their channel, some alteration, some of the full body of work. It's been going on for about a good 15 years. Let me put it this way. For some reason, the sun is starting to... If you guys have a hard time seeing this, let me know. Yeah, like I can see chat. I'm sure everybody chat's going about how I'm fat and gay and all the stuff that I don't care about. Call me faggot, please. Okay, so then in 2010, Mr. Brennan and Mr. Markland, well, actually it was before 2010, it was 2009, and Mr. Markland, and he didn't come along until much later, were the ones that took the ball and ran with it for about 8 years. Actually, Mr. Markland later than Mr. Brennan. Oh yeah, that's right, he did admit that. Taking the work and trying to do things with it. Now, I know defamation is off the table, but the original concept, and of course this was originally dropped, the court, that is off the table. Mr. Yared, I understand, sir. Please don't try to put it on the table. Mr. Yared, I'm going to say basically that was the original premise of the I was going to say lawsuit, was about. That being said, it was my work that were taken. For some reason, I thought he said something different there. Used and supposedly from what Mr. Brennan had said, that he has taken to the film festival and made a profit on. He still believes that to this day. What a moron. The court, wait, you said he made a profit on it? How? Which is, again, just an outline of what you intend to prove to me today. So now I get why George said he had evidence of me saying I took his work. Even so, you can make money off of somebody else's work if it is a majority of it you created yourself. But that's not something I'm going to get into right now. Which is, again, just an outline of what you intend to prove to me today. Oh, wait a minute. Did I already read this page. Crap, hold on. Oh, yeah, forgive me. How did he make a profit? Forgive me. Yeah, so since these are double-sided, I get easily confused. Once again, I'm Captain Derpington for a reason. Mr. Yared, well, coming off a video that was actually in the third amended complaint when we had linked that video, so that was original. The court. My question is, how do you know they made money off of it. Mr. Yarrett, well, there was a movie. The court, I understand there was a movie. How do you know they made any money off of it? I looked at this stuff. Candidly, I've seen their Mr. Brennan's handiwork. And I can't imagine anybody paying a nickel to see any of it. Mr. Yarrett, I understand, but the court, has anybody paid any money to see that? Mr. Yarrett, this is supposedly what came out of his mouth. The court, okay. Did he say to you that he made money off of it? Let's see. The court, okay. Did he say that to you that he made any money off of it? Oh, I already said that. He didn't say it to me. He said it on video camera. Not on YouTube. Video camera. And they have a Patreon account as well. That's news to me. Hey, focus. I used to make money. I used to sell commercials to different places like Taboo Lingerie. Remember that one, folks? Insurance doctor. Places like that where they actually paid me to... It was a period of time where there was a good amount of side money that was made. The court, how much money did you make off of this thing? Under $1,000. Since 1994, he's made less than $1,000 off his entire show. George is whining about $1,000, where if that was me and I made $1,000 off the whole trolling work that I've done, I'd be ecstatic. I'd be on cloud 9. Bitch. When did that stop? That was in mid 2000s, 2006, 2007. Go to different places, restaurants, Potter's Club, which is no longer there, and we do commercials for them. Yes, so we had, it is a good little part-time income out of it. And from what I understand, it's illegal at many public access stations, places where you do public access to make money off of your work. I could be wrong about that. The court, go ahead with your opening statement. The reason why I am here is to be able to go about protecting my work. Try to not have it marked up with their venom and their possible infringement and stealing my material. I know that the intent is like a bathroom wall, and it is. Like National Enquirer saying, I'd say more like Mad Magazine, God rest its soul, saying to me it is like a bathroom wall with that. So everything is pretty much, like a bathroom wall. What is with George and saying things 3 times over? But I want to protect my name, my father's name, my brand. So the Gorgeous George Show is a part of his father's brand? Considering he made chemicals for a cigarette company which killed a lot of people, that kind of branding? And what I do. It is not everybody's cup of tea, but this is what I do. I've been doing it for so long, and this is my legacy. I don't want it tarnished. Too bad. Even though somewhat thinks it is not like Masterpiece Theater. The court, I understand why you're here. What I want to hear is what your evidence is going to show today. Just a brief outline. The evidence will show you work that was taken, work that Mr. Brennan had took and put it on the channels of YouTube, and then playing it on and making, of course, that video, which I know wasn't entered in this. But it is original 30-minute complaint. That is fine on that, but it will show you the court. Well, I think Mr. Brennan has pretty much admitted in his answer that he used your material in his postings on YouTube. So I don't really. So this is a factor of controversy. Mr. Yarrett, okay? The court, okay. Mr. Yarrett, I haven't seen the full effect, like the Direxon effect of what I know that the court. Did you see his answer? Mr. Yarrett, I saw something. I saw a portion of it. This was when I emailed what Mr. Sanders sent to me in his email. Not the whole entire thing. Something was sent to me in an email. My concern was, so he has kind of admitted in his answer that he is responsible for at least some of these. Glad to see he has taken, I don't care what you're glad to see, Mr. Yared. I want to know what your evidence is going to show. Mr. Yared, the evidence is going to show my material and the material my show that he has taken, the court, all right. Comparing the two of my works, the court, now, okay. All right. Anything else for your opening statement? I'm ready to show you what I can show you for today. The court, well, all right, so call your first witness. Mr. Yared, okay, I will call Mr. Potter. Mr. who? Michael Sanders. Calls him Mr. Potter. And, okay, that's weird. See, now I'm doing a gorgeous George right now, but not by not having my paperwork. Okay, found it. Unlike George, I got it done relatively quickly. Okay, the court, all right. Mr. Sanders, your moment in the sun. He already knows this is going to be good. Michael Jonathan Garland Sanders was sworn and testified as follows. The court, I will ask you some questions to get the ball rolling. Mr. Yared, all right. The court, Mr. Sanders, will you state your full name, please? And I already did that. Mr. Saunders, how old are you, sir? 32 years of age, judge. Are you employed? I am, Your Honor. Where do you work? I'm self-employed as a consultant. Consultant of what? I'm a paralegal, Your Honor. I'm still wondering if I should move to a different place. Once again, I can't see I'm doing such gorgeous Georgisms right now. Troll me, please. I'm sorry, I'm having too much fun with this and with myself because this is far below my usual standards, but it has to be like this for the time being. The court, paralegal? The witness, yes, sir. The court, all right. Do you know the parties in this case, Mr. Yared and Mr. Brennan? I know Mr. Yared, all right. Have you ever met Mr. Brennan? No, sir. The court, all right. Ever talked to him? No, sir. The court, okay, all right. Direct examination begins by Mr. Yared. Question. All right, so Mr. Saunders, how do you know me? You responded to a Craigslist post of mine searching for paralegal work, asking to help transcribe and format your pleadings. The court, transcribe what? Transcribe and format his pleadings. So you formatted my work. You have formatted the work that I had given you to do. Answer, I did. Question. Okay. The court. Would you say form with local court rules of this court? All right. By Mr. Yared. So yes, you have formatted work. Throughout the whole period of my time working with me, did you start doing work for the opposition? The court, wait a second, what does that got to do with anything? Well, I just want to know. The court, no, your questions have to deal with copyright violations, not whether this fellow was posing as an attorney or whatever other people are using him as an attorney. The questions are, what does he know about your program and copyright violations? Mr. Yared, okay. The court, let me just ask you this. Do you know anything, were you present when any of these programs were made? The witness, not to my knowledge, Your Honor. I've never seen what is on the copyrighted disc. The court, ever seen Mr. Yared's program? Many times on YouTube, and once I was a small child on public access. Have you ever seen Mr. Brennan's parody of Mr. Yared's program? Yes, I have, Judge. And embrace for impact. The court, all right. So he has seen your program. He wasn't there when it was made. When it was made. You obviously weren't with Mr. Brennan when he made these. Is it correct? Witness, yes, Judge. This is correct. All right, go ahead. Okay. Do you have other questions? All right, by counsel. Okay. I wish I had pre-planned this. George always blames his stuff on other problems or people. Huge shocker there, I know. Again, I know. I didn't know that we were, but that's the court. Don't apologize anymore for what you don't know. Proceed and do your best, Mr. Yared. I will. By Mr. Yared, what do you believe in the situation with what has transpired, with what I've been through? What do you believe? I just can't wait for Mr. Saunders' part. It's epic. What do you believe? Do you believe there was copyright infringement? The court. No. He is not. I am the one that decides whether it's copyright infringement. You have to ask him. This is like flying an airplane. We have all been passengers in the plane, but there's only one person who can fly the plane, and that is my court reporter. Oh yeah, that goes there. So I can't make the decision about whether there is copyright infringement. Okay, the court, all right. Mr. Yared, there are questions that I had, and I am, like I said, I am now working on hardly any sleep. He already established this 50 billion times, so I do apologize. I'm not going to apologize anymore. The court, ask the questions if you have them. By Mr. Yared. What is your opinion of the works or of my work? Mr. Saunders' answer, horrible. Okay, this is your opinion, of course. What is your opinion overall about the works that have been infringed upon, or the works that have been created by Mr. Brennan? I don't understand the question. The court, what he is asking is, do you think Mr. Brennan's work is horrible as well? Michael Saunders, no, I think it is awesome. I wish I could have seen the expression on his face when he said that. So he thinks Mr. Brennan's work, but that is really not relevant to whether it is copyright violation. The question is, when you looked at Mr. Brennan's work, did you see, as a background matter, of copies of programs that you knew to be Mr. Yared's programs? By Mr. Yared. Yes, the court. You don't answer, he answers. This is like something from the Three Stooges, I swear. Mr. Yared, I know. This is Michael Sanders, I believe. Judge, what my understandings of the fair use doctrine and parodies, I don't care what your understandings of parodies are. My question is, you saw some of Mr. Yared's programs, is that correct? Mr. Michael Sanders. Snippets, pieces. The court, you saw snippets, and then you saw snippets and pieces of Mr. Brennan's program, is that correct? Yes, Judge, Michael Sanders says. The court, all right. Are they the same? Are the same snippets that Mr. Yared made snippets that are placed in the Mr. Brennan's program? Michael Saunders, I don't have knowledge of what the particular program in question. I have seen bits and pieces utilized. The court, bits and pieces of Mr. Yared's program are used in Mr. Brennan's work, is that correct? Michael Saunders, yes, Judge. The court, all right, okay. I forget how many pages are in this, but I know I have to get going at 7 because I have a job I need to get going to. I'm poor as fuck. But that's another story for another time. So that ought to help you some, the court says. Now what we have established, though, is, as Mr. Brennan has admitted in his answer, he has used some of your program in his work. But let me just ask you this, Mr. Saunders. Mr. Brennan adds things to those programs, does he not? Once again, the court, you can already tell the judge's decision on this already. He's hinted at this, the whole thing. Michael Saunders, yes, Judge. The court, sometimes he has captions at the bottom, is that right? Michael, yes, Judge. The court, and then they make what Mr. Brennan, in his juvenile way, thinks are funny comments about Mr. Yared. Michael, yes, Judge. The court, and he says, for instance, made comments about Mr. Yared's sexual preferences. Michael Saunders, yes, Judge. The court, and he lived, and who he lives with, things like that. Is that right? Michael, yes, Your Honor. The court, and he accuses him essentially of not having any, or at least any gainful employment. Is that right? Michael, yes, Your Honor. In addition to bankruptcy. The court, and sometimes there is a little man in a pink jumpsuit that comes on Mr. Jared's program, and by the way, it's spelled JARRED''S. Is that right, as copied by Mr. Brennan? Michael, no, I believe those are all Sean Brennan's work. The court, so that is, Mr. Brennan has put little pink people in pink jumpsuits on, is that right? The Michael, yes, Your Honor. Did those pink jumpsuit people make comments about Mr. Yared? Michael, they typically insult him and mock his persona. The court, while that is happening in the background, is Mr. Yared having conversations with people and doing skits and things like that, is that correct? Michael, within reason, Your Honor. It is not as if a video that George has produced is made and they just make over it. They made a bundle of what he has done to produce their works and give him credit to them in the caption and say that, this is George's. It is clearly that they are not claiming. I understand that. What they have done is take pieces of his work and inserted their own commentary on it, either in the form of written words or this little fellow in a pink jumpsuit or whatever it is. Michael, yes, it is, Your Honor. The court, and their comments about George, essentially they say George does not do very good television programs and they think he is not a good or useful citizen in society. Well, ain't that the truth? And make fun of him for that. Is that correct? Yes, Michael, yes, Judge, that is gist of it. The court, now, does that help you? Mr. Yared, I have other questions. The court, good. By Mr. Yared. Mr. Saunders, have you seen through shows where Mr. Brennan is taking full, entire shows and put them on his channel without doing any editing? I can't, Michael, I can't testify to that being true, George. The court, all right, that is all right. You can testify to that. Mr. Yared, yes, definitely. The court, all right. Do you have anything else you want to get from this, this witness? Excuse me. There are things, but you will, excuse me, Mr. Yared. There are things, but you will tell me it is unrelated, so I guess not. The court, all right. Thank you very much, Mr. Saunders. Thank you. You may step down. Michael, thank you, Judge. Witness stands down. The court, all right. Now, your next witness is yourself. George. Yes, sir. The court, are you going to want to make comments about these programs that you provided to us and point out to us things that are pirated? George, the court, are you going to want to refer to these programs that you tendered to us during your testimony? George, okay, yes. I can go about, if you want, we can play that. Or, if you want to cross-examine, I don't know. The court, here's what we'll do. You may, first of all, you have to take the oath that you're going to tell the truth. We all know George. Mr. Yared, okay. The court, you can do that in one of two ways. Either swear on the Bible or hold your hand up and say that you affirm you will tell me the truth. I affirm, this is George, I affirm everything I say will be true. The court, she will give you the magic words, hold up your right hand. The clerk says the whole spiel. George, agrees. Court, all right. Now here is what I'm going to let you do. I'm going to let you sit down at the table there. Mr. Yared, okay. The court, okay. And you can testify from there. And I'm going to ask members of our IT staff to come up and help you by running the video program, which he knows how to do. And how to get them to come up on the screen here in court. Mr. Yared, okay. Court, all right. Thank you, Brian, for doing this. I appreciate it. You're a kind man. All right. Now, Mr. Yared, will you state your full name, please? George Alexander Yared. All right. Tell me what you do for a living these days. George, what I do currently right now is I deliver for DoorDash. I forgot what he did before off the top of my head, but take out taxi, that's right. Not a far stretch for George. Anything that involves food. The court. You deliver takeout orders. Yes, what I'm doing right now. Do you have those exhibits? Mr. Yared, I'm going to show you documents that we have made because what we do, I mean, I just anticipated this was going to be a disaster. To be candid, so what I did, I went to YouTube and looked these programs up so we could see what comes up when you call this on YouTube. I'm trying to make things easier for you, okay? Mr. Yared, I appreciate that. I'm positive that the judge was laughing at him behind his back as us trying to be nice to him for whatever reason. Okay. Court. So what I have here for you, I'm going to mark this as Plaintiff's Exhibit 5. It's screenshots I have from a different era. Screenshots of your program that you gave to us. And this is what comes up when a person goes to YouTube and sees this, I believe. I will get you to affirm that. So let's give that to Mr. Yared, please. Do you have another copy? Mr. Yared, I'm showing you a document which has been marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 5. The court, do you see that? George, yes. The court. Now, I want you to take a look through that. I'm going to give you a copy for you to have. But that copy with that exhibit sticker will be in the court file. Look through it. Tell me, Mr. Yared, if these are screenshots that come up when you open the programs that are on YouTube and that you contend have been pirated. Mr. Yared, I didn't hear the first thing you said. The court. What is that? Mr. Yared, didn't hear the first thing you said in that sentence. Tell me if these screenshots that come up when you open this thing on YouTube. So I'm going to go through these things one by one, Mr. Yared, okay? The court, I want you to tell me, so we have Plaintiff's Exhibit 5 in the upper hand corner. It says number 1 with a parentheses around it. Do you see that? Mr. Yared, okay. It says Gorgeous George Show 52016. It says Gorgeous George TV. Is that your YouTube channel? It is. It then says published November 19th, 2016. It says below that Gorgeous George Show featuring Sarah West, Kevin Kravitz, Vince Mac, blah blah blah. So trying to scroll down. Oh yeah. So this was your original program. Witness correct? Yeah, I was just scrolling through a bunch of stuff that wasn't important. The court, okay. Then the second one is, go to the next page. It says Gorgeous George Prank Calls 2016. And then it says Old Man Henry owned. I can only imagine how the George said PWNS. Gorgeous George in his hole, and then it says published January 9th, 2017. And below that it says, would you believe George still falls for this? And the judge uses the whole S word after being on public access for more than 22 years. Now, is this what you would get when you open up this YouTube page? This is Sean Brennan's work, yes. Alright, what does PWNS mean? George, I guess that means pwn or own or a certain vernacular. I don't know. Sean is talking about owning somebody or pwning somebody. George finally gets what that means. I'm still amazed by that. Alright, then we go to number 3, Gorgeous George, blah blah blah. Is this one of your original shows? Yes. Is this on your channel again? Yes, among others. It says Gorgeous George Show celebrates their 20th anniversary talking about breastfeeding. George, no. Is that what it says, right? Is this your program you open up on? Yes. That is your original show. Yes. Alright. Then we go to number 4, which says Gorgeous George Show 2014, and it says published October, blah, blah, blah. And this is your YouTube page, and George says yes. Alright. Is this one of your original shows not been altered by Mr. Brennan? He has altered pretty much everything. Everything. And I don't even think I've done a fraction of his shows yet, have I? Probably not. He has a ton of videos that I haven't even touched on yet. Yeah, I'm trying to get to the good stuff. Let's see. because I don't have a lot of time, and most of it is technical stuff. Okay, yeah, here we go. Then let's go to number 6. This says, Gorgeous George Sucks the Movie 3, GG's 20th Season edition. Sounds like something George would say. It is apparently the channel that is on Old Man Henry owns Gorgeous George in his a-hole. And then below that, it has some commentary that, let's see, the commentary, well, first of all, when you open up, this is one of Sean Brennan's programs, correct? Yes, it is, correct. The court. And this screen that you see when you open it up before you start to play the video, is that right? George, yes. And this is a movie that he submitted. Okay, the movie says George, and then there are comments after that. Tell me, this is what the comment says. George, okay. Court. George is back with 100% more blah. Butthurt and rage than usual. He read the whole description out loud. On his first episode, which he is supposed to be his first anniversary, decides to the multiple enemies he has online. I think there's just a lot of typos I had in this one, and to be truthful, and this is something I've not really talked about yet in terms of sex videos that I have made. I didn't care enough to proofread it. It drains you so bad watching it that after a while it's like, you know what, I got it down, I'm moving on. And it's like, if it looks okay, then I'm just moving on. That's how little I've cared about not necessarily making the videos, but just trying to get it done as soon as possible so it's not as painful for me. Let's see. It reflects. It reflects 2040 episodes. Is that what our 2014 episodes? What is in Gorgeous George Sucks the Movie 3? He took a mix. Are they all? I know it is. This is the court, by the way. All forms of various programs. George. Various programs. Are they all from 2014? That goes there. George, I believe it. Most of it was, but some of it was altered from different years. The court, all right. Which parts are from different years, if you know? Let's see. George. Well, he has labeled these as 2014, so I have looked at this, so I'm going to say this edition is probably from all 2014. But there are others, items where there were different years. Court, all right. And then it says below that, one of my favorite parts, an entry, something called Encyclopedia Grammatica, not Dramatica, Grammatica. And then it says the Gorgeous George Show is the equivalent of cutting off one of your limbs with a rusted olive fork. Let's see. I'm gonna skip along because he literally reads through the descriptions of any video that I made that you guys already know of, and I want to get this done as soon as possible. And then it has something called a fair use notice, which is something I always had at the bottom. Now, is this what you get when you look at the page? Open up to... Now, is this what you get when you open up this page? Open to look at the program to look? I believe so. You could have... You have to say the answer after I finish. He's so rude to the judge. George, I believe so, yes. Okay. Am I halfway done? I don't even know if I'll finish this in time. That's the thing I worry about. Otherwise, I'll have to read the rest of this on Saturday. Let's see. Then we go to number 7, Gorgeous George Show, 1995 show featuring Dirt Woman. For those of you who haven't seen Gorgeous George Sucks the Movie 2, you got to. It's one of the most epically cringiest things you'll ever see, in my opinion. Next to the original and the third one, and Actually, I don't even have favorites anymore. They're all equally as cringy to me these days. So basically same sort of thing again. Once again, I'm trying to look for stuff that, let's see. Dead air is a good thing. Let's see. I always laugh when the court reads my stuff verbatim. For those of you who are curious, just look at any video descriptions on my Gorgeous George owns blah 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 channel. I'm sure somebody will link it in chat. Let's see, the court. These are all shows that were made in the years that are indicated below, which look like 95 through 99. Is that correct? George, these were originally put on a VHS tape. No shit. And then we took the tapes and put them on DVD, which I'm sure was one of the things he sold. God, I'll never forget that time when he sold those crappy things on DVD. Incidentally, I think they're still up on eBay, which, why anybody would pay for that, I have no idea. Then we go to number 9. Gorgeous George prank of 2016, first day of Trollmas. I miss doing the Trollmas videos. When I build a new PC, I want to get back to doing stuff like that, and or do it on some other locale. The judge says the C word, and that's hilarious to me. I think I'm gonna have to cut this short. It's like I said, I should have thought about this better. We're about halfway through anyway. Let me see. You know, I'll do another 10 pages and then cut it there. I don't mean to be jumping all over the place. It's just the judge says a lot of technical stuff and things that you can already see by looking at my videos. Anyway, alright, so damn it. Yeah, I keep getting text. This sucks. Alright, so I'll do part 2 of this on Saturday. So see you guys then. Professional, right?